Hello, Haunted Hearts Society members. It's me, Emily S.W.
Sam.
And welcome to another episode of the Haunted Hearts Society Dark Literature Podcast.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, Substack, and for the podcast, you can follow us on Spotify and all the other podcast platforms.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I forgot the tagline.
You know what the problem is? It's because we're doing this while it's daylight out.
The vibes are different.
The vibes are different. We never do this while the sun is up.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
It's very unlike us. It's not our natural time.
No, it's not. It's usually I am much better in the daylight hours, but it's a work day. I just got off of work and my brain is pooped. I was like herding cats today.
Yeah, speaking of cats, if you hear scraping, thumping, and other miscellaneous noises, it is the cat entertaining herself with mice and the door.
Fake mice, not real mice, not live mice. I should clarify. Yeah, I think that is it. It's daylight.
It's wrong.
Yeah. The Haunted Hearts Society does not meet during daylight.
No.
But we have a special meeting today because we are going to an event, which is pretty topical, because what we're discussing today, the piece of dark literature for our dark literature podcast, is The Phantom of the Opera, written in French originally by Gaston Leroux. We
have very different copies.
We do. So my translation, if you don't know, audience, or if you're not really familiar with reading translated work, depending on the translator, a lot can change, specifically tonally. So I read a translation by Mireille
Ribière.
That's what tripped me up, the double L and the E, and I couldn't remember if that meant you pronounced the L or not.
Otherwise, it's like... No, if the I and the E were the other way, I would have said Muriel. But that's definitely not how it is.
That makes sense. And this was done, I believe this translation is from 2011.
Mine's from 1990. I think this book was thrifted.
I got mine from the library. This is a Penguin Classics.
Mine is a Bantam Classic.
Yeah. I'm
pretty sure this is from a thrift store. Because like I said, This printing is from 2008, but the translation is from 1990.
Yeah, so right off the bat...
So we can't really talk about the language, necessarily.
No, although I did want to bring it up because... So the nice thing about this edition... Well, there's a couple nice things about it. Good old Penguin. They have an introduction about the story and about... They have a little chronology, a little timeline of the author, which is nice. But in the introduction, the translator's notes... She says that she purposefully tried to mimic the tone and some of the language structure of authors like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle because Gaston Leroux, I don't know why I'm trying to roll my R's because I really can't, Monsieur Leroux was a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes and other contemporary stories at the time.
He also wrote detective stories. So she said because he was such a big fan of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and English authors like that, and because it was of the time period, she tried to sort of, when she was translating, use some of those sort of tonal choices. And I thought, honestly, I think it worked. Like, it doesn't sound like a Sherlock Holmes story, but I can see the similarities. Now, see, mine is a modern Americanized translation. Mm-hmm. So very different, which means neither one of us actually have a faithful translation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because this one isn't really a one-to-one. There were stylistic choices.
Yeah, so I guess in order to really discuss the writing for what it was meant to be, we would have to acquire a French copy.
And I would have to get much better at French.
But I think there's enough contextually.
Yeah, I mean, the story
content-wise.
Yeah.
To discuss. Now, this is a very famous story.
It is.
Largely in part because of the musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yep, the movie based on the musical that came out in 2004.
Yes. So when people think Phantom, they think the musical. When you envision the Phantom, you think, usually the half mask
even though all the promotional materials have a full mask. Now, the book and the musical, it does hit all the same major plot points, but they are very different.
Oh, extremely. Especially, I think, well, and I'm speaking from the copy I read, so take this with a grain of salt, I guess, but the book reads almost comedically.
Yeah.
Okay, so that also came across, it wasn't just my translation.
You get tipped off to this in the very beginning, and I don't know if yours said this exactly, when he's talking about La Sorelli, the ballerina, and he says that she was kind of an idiot, but no one blamed her for it.
Yes. Yes, like little things like that. And there was also something in the way of repeated phrasing. Multiple characters would describe the same event with the exact same sentence. For instance, now this shouldn't be comedic, but early on in the book, one of the people who works at the opera house is found hanged. I forget what his name is.
Joseph Bouquet.
Bouquet, yeah.
Not bucket, Bouquet.
Okay, so what specifically the line that's repeated was Joseph Bouquet was found hanging. It's the way they describe it between. Of course, now I can't find it. They repeat it multiple times, but it's like Joseph Bouquet was found hanging in between a piece of scenery and another piece of the stage. And multiple characters say that exact sentence, which to me is part of the mark of like a comedic, like a bit almost. Like when every single character says the exact same thing.
Yeah. So I guess one of the biggest differences, or I should say the biggest difference, because the musical moves some stuff around as well. Like the hanging of Joseph Bouquet takes place near the end of the musical. This, in the book, it's like immediate.
It's almost
right from the beginning.
It's not really an inciting incident, but it's our introduction to...
And the biggest difference, I would say, is that the novel is a mystery. It's told from the point of view of kind of this detective character who's trying to put together all the pieces of this. And at this point, the case is years old.
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out what exactly happened. And he said to preserve it, the story for history, something like that. This is years in the future, and he's actually retelling us the story through eyewitness accounts and things that he's reading.
Like memoirs, and he actually goes and talks to a couple people.
The musical is a gothic romance. This is not.
No, absolutely not. This one is red flag stranger danger to the highest degree.
I would even say the characters are the least interesting part of the novel.
I would agree.
The musical, obviously, we're introduced to Christine Daae, who's the singer, and Raoul, the Viscount de Chagny, who's the
love
the
interest.
Viscount. They're the main couple.
Yeah.
And then the Phantom is also thrown into there. We've got this love triangle, which is in the novel, and it's kind of the thing that drives the plot forward, but I don't think Christine and Raoul are necessarily interesting as people.
No, they're really not. Like, their interactions, and it's really the Phantom that's interesting.
I would argue the most interesting part of the novel is actually the opera house itself. And I think that is the point of the story.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I was also... So, another thing about this Penguin Classics edition that I have is in the beginning, in the intro, before you actually read the book, it has, like, not an entire history of the opera house, but it does talk in depth about the opera house and how it was built and when, because it is so important to the book. And there's also, in the back of this edition, there are little references, which makes reading it take extremely long, because if you want to go and read all of the little references, there's almost as many references to read as there are pages in some of the chapters. Because this book is very referential to other Paris operas. There's a lot of explanations about expressions the characters use. There's some history about the opera house in here of, oh, this is a reference to this era of history in France, which is connected to the opera house in this way.
Yeah, so Gaston Leroux was familiar with this opera house, and he wanted to just write a story that took place in it. I guess the chandelier incident was a thing that really happened.
Yes, but not to the degree
No, and
that it happened in the book.
There actually was an opera house that had like an underground, like river or lake kind of thing underneath it.
So actually, that's mentioned in the references. So when they were building, I think it was the Paris Opera House, when they were building it, they did run into an issue where they were up against the river or whatever, and water got in, but they drained it. It all got drained. So there is no lake. There was no lake. Actively.
Lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did happen at some point where there was water, so he did base that off of, oh, there was at one point all this water down here, but they pumped it out. They got rid of it.
So that would be a pretty tentative foundation to have an entire opera house.
Yeah, and like Venice, Venice is not holding up very well either.
On top of like this open cavern full of water.
Yeah.
Now, because I have a page of notes, and I wrote, and this is what I want to talk about, I want to talk about these three things in particular. So the opera house itself is like an entity. It's almost like a character in the story.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is a huge theme in Gothic fiction where the setting itself is almost its own character.
Absolutely.
So the opera house, he describes, there's a scene where Christine and Raoul go up and up and up into the attics. And the way he describes the opera house through the various characters, it's almost like a labyrinth. It seems to go on infinitely. And the opera house itself hides a lot of secrets.
Yes, there are false walls, there are trick doors.
There's also so many different people. So there were people living in the attics that no one really paid attention to. Most people didn't know they were there. They were just living up in the top floors. And then all the people in the cellars. There is the rat killer, who people just saw as like this flaming head because of how he carried his lantern that would reflect back on his face. So people thought he was the ghost for quite a while. There are demons manning the boilers, which both Christine and Raoul described.
Yes, I imagine those demons are just people
that have been down there for so long and they're soot covered. But it's like, it was giving like Spirited Away vibes in the bathhouse, where you have people who are kind of just assigned to their very specific role, and it's almost like they never leave from that spot.
Yeah, I was also thinking of Metropolis when they're in front of that big clock, and that's also kind of what I was picturing with the boiler, because anytime I read about a boiler now, that's where my brain goes.
And there was also a cloaked man in the cellar who is never explained. And it very specifically says, I am not explaining this to you. It just is. You just have to accept there's this very mysterious cloaked man walking around the cellar.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's Paris. And honestly, that also kind of feeds into the fact that under Paris, wild. There is so much stuff underneath the city of Paris. I mean, probably most people have heard of the catacombs.
Yeah.
That if you're not aware, if you don't remember, dear listener, the catacombs in Paris are just underground. You can walk through these tunnels that are lined with human bones and skulls.
Yes, because they were running out of cemetery space, so they started moving the bodies and putting them in the catacombs. And the catacombs are so extensive that they say, do not go down there without like a tour guide, because you will get lost and you will never be seen again.
Yeah, so there's that. There's I also heard a story of, at one point during one plague or another, back in the day there used to be plagues every other year, although we're also kind of at that point in 2026, but whatever. And when you have a bunch of plagues and poor people, when those people die, you run out of room in the cemeteries, you just start making mass graves. And so when my wife and I were in Paris, we took a haunted Paris tour, and he was telling us a story about how they were trying to make a park or fountain or something in a square, and they started digging it up, and then they realized that it was a mass grave, and so then they had to, So there's a lot of stuff underneath the city of Paris. Like, Paris is such a glamorous place. Like, the Paris Opera House is a perfect example. Opulent. Arts. Culture. And even, like, multiple cultures, like Italian, well, especially with the opera, you have Italian, German, French, like, everybody coming together, all this stuff. But then you've got the other side of it. Literally underneath.
French opera is almost like its own genre of opera as well, because French operas include ballets, which operas from other countries don't necessarily include.
Which is such a French thing to do.
So, yeah. But, the opera house, the secrets that it holds, they're, like, almost verging on actually being supernatural.
Well, especially because there's so many people there, and a lot of the characters who work in the opera house have been there for years. So, all these stories develop, and the stories themselves kind of become their own characters, and they take on lives of their own.
So one such person living in the cellars is the Phantom himself.
The man of the book on the title.
Yeah, I have to say, because he's called the opera ghost for most of the story, and every time he would write, his little notes to the managers, he'd sign it OG.
That's another thing that's different in this translation, because his notes, which is also funny, but he signs them P of the opera. So it's just the letter P and then of the opera. Like, he calls himself the Phantom, but it's really funny.
I think in the musical they used opera ghost. And, I've seen the musical a couple times in person.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, obviously, the film. Me and the Phantom go way back. My uncle's wife, when I was really, really little, she had the soundtrack on cassette.
Classic.
And that would be what I wanted to listen to. Now, did I know anything about the musical? No. Did I know anything about books? No, because it was definitely before I was the age of 6. Did I just think that the overture and the Phantom music was the most amazing thing in the world? I sure did. It's just, it's so powerful.
Honestly, yeah.
And then if you ever do get a chance to see the Phantom of the Opera on, like, full production on stage, 1000% go do it.
Oh, yeah, that's, like, on my bucket list. Now, funnily enough, I have seen the fan fiction Phantom of the Opera 2 musical, which Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote, and I saw that live, because I had season tickets at the time, and it was not good. I do not recommend seeing Phantom of the Opera 2.
What is it called? Love Never Dies?
Love Never Dies.
Now, if you know how the novel ends, you will know why it's impossible for that whole sequel to have even taken place.
Yeah, but man, Andrew Lloyd Webber, he made it, he did it, he made it happen, and it was,
I think,
unfortunate.
At this point, Phantom is like the longest running Broadway show. Okay, so the Phantom. His description in the book is, I guess, comparing it to the musical, also very different. But his description in the book is more similar to how he's portrayed by Lon Chaney in the silent film.
Oh, okay.
Because he's described as a death's head. So he looks a skull.
Yeah, a lot of people describe him as having no nose, sunken in eyes, and like 1 or 2 little strands of hair.
Which is how he's portrayed in the silent film from the 20s.
Yeah, he doesn't have that chiseled jawline like he does in the 2004.
The musical, I mean, obviously you would have to do a lot of, well, I mean, they did the makeup for the film in the 20s. They could surely do it now. It would take a lot of prosthetics. But they usually, because he wears the half mask too, so the one side of his face has still got to be very handsome.
Well, and I think too, you said it, right? Like the Andrew Lloyd Webber, the musical is a romance.
Mm-hmm.
The way the Phantom's described in the book, in the Lon Chaney one, which I haven't seen yet, that's horror. They take the horror out of the musical for the most part.
Yeah, so in the novel, he's a much more menacing character, besides the fact he is a stand-in for death.
Yeah.
And this is shown to us in multiple ways. So you have his very corpse-like appearance, which partially because of his face.
I marked a passage about the description of the Phantom. He had not uttered a word, and even those sitting on either side of him were at a loss at what precise moment he had appeared. Everyone felt nevertheless that death had come and sat at the table of the living. And so that's when, near the beginning of the book, the owners of the opera house are retiring and they have these 2 replacements. So they're having this big dinner party, and the Phantom shows up, and the 2 new incoming opera house directors, all their friends, think that this guy is the guest of the old opera directors, and all the friends of the old opera directors think this guy is a guest of the new opera directors.
Yeah, he makes himself, or I should say he shows himself more frequently in the novel than he does in the musical.
In the novel, he writes all these little notes. He's like a pissy little man-child toddler in the novel a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, these are all of my demands, and you must meet them. And it's also has the sort of quality that most Gothic novels have of, this is criticizing many aspects of high Parisian society.
Yeah. So he goes to their masquerade party dressed as the Red Death, which is a Poe reference.
Yep.
In The Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe, death itself shows up because there's an epidemic going around, but the epidemic is manifested, like personified by this red death figure, which the Phantom chooses as his costume for the masquerade. He also steals a white horse.
Yes.
Which...
The prize stallion. That was also funny because in that point of the book, the directors are like, what do you mean stables? It's like, oh yeah, we got 12 horses in the stables.
Which are also in the cellars.
They're like, what do you mean we have stables?
But I was thinking this is a reference to Death on the Pale Horse.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. That's good. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, that's why they make a point of telling us the white horse.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Why is it white?
Yeah, because, was it one of the horsemen of the apocalypse?
Yeah.
He's a harbinger of doom in any way that you slice it.
Harbinger of doom, also creep.
Oh yeah, and he's got these, like, glowing eyes that can only be seen in the dark.
Like a cat.
So very, very creepy, kind of menacing figure. But
yeah, who is also, though, he's just kind of an extortionist. Like, if it wasn't for the murder and being a creep towards Christine, he would just be extorting people.
Oh, yeah, I mean, because he is just a guy.
He's just a guy. He's just a guy who knows all the tricks in the opera house, and
he's also a center of contradictions. Because, I guess like we said, he portrays himself and he appears to the people working in the opera as this very mysterious, elusive, even though he keeps showing up. He's supposed to be elusive, but he's just a guy. He's also a genius. He's a master of music, and he longs to be loved, but he's so far removed from society and humanity that it's almost not possible.
And that calls to the forefront as well, sort of the monster trope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he is monstrous in appearance, but his actions are also monstrous. But that calls into question, without his appearance, would he have been fine in society, or would he still have been a monster? Or did looking like a monster make him a monster? Yeah.
Those are the questions. And I think the musical kind of takes it a step farther to make him a little more sympathetic.
Yes.
By showing us, this is told to us a little bit about how he was used in like a freak show for a while.
Mm-hmm.
In the musical, or I should say the film might even show this more than the musical does. He's rescued by Madame Giry when they were both young.
Mm-hmm.
So his connection to Madame Giry is much stronger in the Andrew Lloyd Webber versions. In the novel, she's just kind of the go-between when he wants to pass notes and collect his money.
Yeah, and it's also, Madame Giry is, she works at the opera house. She helps people to their seats. I forget what, like an usher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's, and he asks for something, she brings it to him. He treats her pretty nice. He brings her candy. He brings her money. Like, she's like,
yeah.
I like this guy.
The novel iteration of Madame Giry is not as serious, authoritative, or as intelligent as she is.
No, in the book, she's just, like almost a common, I don't want to say commoner, one of the people, a common person.
She's just a lady.
She's just a lady doing her job.
She's an old lady.
And she's just like, hey, this guy treats me nice, so he can do what he wants, I'll do it, that's fine.
And her daughter Meg is still a ballet dancer, but she's not necessarily friends with Christine the way she is in Andrew Lloyd Webber's version. She's only mentioned a couple times. In the very beginning, when we meet the, Lassarelli, who's the main ballerina.
And little Jamais.
Yeah. And then they're not really that important. They're in the dressing room and they're gossiping about the ghost, and that's how we find out about Joseph Bouquet having been killed.
It's kind of like the exposition.
And then there's Carlotta, but the part where she's trying to sing and starts croaking happens in both versions.
Iconic. That was also the way it's written. That was extremely comedic in the translation I read, because he describes at length a toad climbing its way out of her throat and jumping out of her mouth and onto the stage, and then he's like, it wasn't a real toad though. She just croaked. She was just croaking like a toad. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, I guess my third point is music as an enchanter. I don't think that the novel is about a love between people. It's a love of people for music. Obviously,
I can see that.
The Phantom loves music. He loves writing music. He's working on his own show that will never see the light of day. And I think it is actually kind of clever that the musical incorporates actually trying to put on a production of Don Juan Triumphant, which is his work. Raoul falls in love with Christine, the singer, and her father was also a musician. Raoul met them.
Yes, as a
child. And I think it's because of the music.
Yeah, because Christine was singing, her father was playing a violin or a fiddle or something, and little Raoul gets so enchanted by her, so he's watching, and her scarf blows away in the wind, and he goes to fetch it, and then they become friends.
Christine herself has this almost preoccupation with the angel of music, and that's how the Phantom, whose name is Eric, which is a really anticlimactic kind of name.
Eric.
He's tried to, I guess, lure her in by passing himself off as this angel of music. So again, it's got nothing to do with Christine the woman, it's Christine the singer.
Mm-hmm.
It's got nothing to do with Eric the man, it's Eric the musician. And Raoul is just kind of walking into the situation.
Enchanted.
He's enchanted by this.
Mm-hmm.
Christine is also like enchanted by the music. That's how Eric is able to control her to the extent that he does. So music itself is another like entity in the story.
Yeah, almost. Music is almost a supernatural, like a force.
Well, it's definitely like the whole angel concept makes it a supernatural element.
Yeah, that's true. And I also think the nature of the book being about the Paris Opera House, and because the book is so referential, because there are so many references to famous composers, famous opera singers, famous operas, the whole 9 yards. There's literally, I think I marked this just because I thought the word was funny, but one of the references in here is all about how there are these two different theories of opera and the way opera should be done at the late 1800s. So there was Gluck, whose supporters were the Gluckists, which is why I marked it because I thought it was funny. And then there's Puccini, and his supporters were the Puccinists.
And neither of them are French.
No. So, but they had two different ideas of the way opera should be. And that's referenced in this book. Like, there's just so much. I feel like you could use this book as a jumping off point to become an expert in late 18th century opera. Honestly, truly. Like, if you just looked up every single thing that's mentioned in this book, you would be an expert. So I think the fact that he takes so much time and care to put these things in shows that he's really himself, the author, has a passion for it.
Yeah, because the story takes place in the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
The book itself was published in 1910.
Yes.
So, worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the subject of the operas performed, one of the ones that was recurring was Faust.
Yes! Yes! Mephistopheles comes up multiple times.
And we're familiar with this story, at least
Friend of the channel. No.
Goethe's version.
Faust is not a friend of the channel.
The original one or Goethe's version? Because we watched the silent movie,
yes,
which is based on Goethe's work. It's a very extremely condensed version. But Christine also doesn't really sing that much in the opera.
No, she plays like a side character at first.
Yeah, she does the performance, or she does perform at like the welcome party for the new managers, and everyone's like, oh, wow, amazing. Then she doesn't really get a lead role ever again.
No, that's one of the Phantom's demands.
Yeah, even though everyone else is like, well, she's good, but eh.
Well, and the problem, Christine's problem is she's good, but she's not established, right? So she's competing against Carlotta, who has a lot of connections. She's been there for a while. She's got friends in high places, friends with lots of money. She's got an established fan base. So how is this young upstart, no matter how talented you are, that's not the money, that's not really a moneymaker if nobody knows your name. And if you're going to upset the wealthy patrons of this other person. Yeah, that's just my practical brain coming into play.
Yeah, but Faust is what they're performing near the end when Eric kidnaps her from the stage in front of an entire audience.
Well, that's what they have at the beginning too, in the chandelier. When the chandelier falls, that's also during Faust.
Recurring. They perform this a lot.
Yeah, apparently.
It must have been popular.
Fan favorite.
But yeah, so Faust is the story of man who, I guess, because I also read, it was an abridged version, it wasn't the full thing, it didn't have a lot of the second act. He's kind of, like, reached a wall in his research as far as, like, because he's trying to study, like, scientific things, and he's sort of reached a wall, and in order to move on to the next step of knowledge, he makes a deal with Mephistopheles, who is the devil.
It's a Faustian bargain.
Yeah, and in the original legend, Faustus makes the deal with the devil and he gains, like, supernatural abilities.
Yeah.
And he travels throughout Germany showing off these amazing abilities, and he has this incredible knowledge. And in Goethe's Faust, they introduce, obviously, a love interest because you gotta in fiction, I guess.
Yeah,
is the character Christine plays, I believe, in one of the versions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the one where she gets kidnapped. So she's portraying the doomed love interest of a doomed man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. A lot of layers in this book.
Fortunately for Christine and Raoul, though, their story ends happily, but not easily.
Well, it wouldn't be a gothic if it was easy. You gotta go through the struggle in order to...
No, so we actually, and I know for a fact this was in the silent film, The Torture Room.
Ooh.
This is not in any iteration of the musical.
No.
But it is in the silent film. And the thing with the scorpion and the grasshopper are also in the silent film.
Okay, yeah. I was just about to say, that also stood out to me because
It was kind of...
almost like it reminded me of, was it the Chinese legend of the scorpion on the back of the ox or something?
Oh, I don't know. But it was tonally very different. Like, the last act of the book is totally very different from the first two.
Yeah.
When we get Raoul and the Persian, who I don't believe had a name.
They call him the Persian, I think, through the entire thing. It's just the Persian. I'm sure he did have a name.
Persia is modern day, Iran? He's described to us as being a handsome, smart man.
Yeah.
But they don't name him.
No, and some of the people, like, some of the characters react to him in sort of a negative way, like saying it's like, oh, he's got the evil eye, he's gonna put the evil eye on us.
He also just kind of pops up and is, like, in everyone's business for no reason. But he has a connection to Eric that he explains to Raoul, and that's how we learn about Eric's whole backstory and how he learned what seemed to be magic tricks and how he's able to pull off these very mysterious feats in the opera without anyone ever seeing him.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, so he is an expert at using trapdoors. He's a ventriloquist.
Yep.
Is able to, like, build traps.
Yeah, he's got an engineering sort of bent.
Yeah, and he has this, so he has a house.
Underground,
and it's, I mean, at least in this translation, it keeps calling it a house.
Yeah, there was also actually a note from the translator about how most translators call it a house, but she used a different word for a very specific reason. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it now. But it's something to do with the translation.
This is why I said we'd have to get our hands on an original French copy.
Yes. Eric built his dwelling within the double watertight shell around the lower part of the building. There is no suggestion in French that it stands on the lake, so to convey the mysterious grandeur of La Demeure du Lac without altering its position on the inside of the retaining wall of the imaginary lake, it has been translated as the lakeside retreat instead of the usual house on the lake.
Yeah, so anyway, in this house, he has also built this torture room, which is a room that the walls are just mirrors. And somehow, this is never really explained to us how he does it.
Yeah.
He's able to make the people inside either they're hallucinating, or somehow there's these different scenes that come in to the room, and he's able to control the temperature of the room. There is a metal tree, which is then reflected in all the mirrors. And he's able to, like, make them hear different things. Like, there's sound effects.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what happens when you're a theater nerd who's trapped underneath the theater for your entire life.
Yeah,
like,
so it's quite incredible.
Yeah, also, it kind of reminded me of Naruto. Sasuke's brother, the
Mangekyo.
Yeah.
Sharingan and his Tsukuyomi.
Those words. Yeah. That's kind of what it reminded me of, except like, it's almost, I think because it's physical and it's a little bit outlandish that all that could be possible in this one room. You know what I mean? It's a little funnier in the book. I mean, that's very dark. It's a very dark concept.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just the idea of it is just outlandish that comes back
that's
around.
That's why I said it kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it is so... It's not really goofy, but it is so, like...
It's so evil that it's goofy.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's all I had as far as notes.
Yeah. The only other thing I wanted to mention is about the author, because I found this interesting. Monsieur Leroux, has a similar background to another friend of the channel that we've discussed multiple times.
Oh?
So let me give you a brief rundown of his career and see if you can figure out who it is. He did not originally start out to be an author. He was originally supposed to be a lawyer, and he went to school for that. Didn't want to do that, didn't like it. He then goes into journalism, starts working for papers, writing articles. He travels around the world and goes to events and writes them up for the Paris papers. And it's while he is doing this work that he starts writing fiction. He ends up writing Phantom of the Opera, I think, partially because he was doing research for an article or something. And so that's kind of how it came about.
I had read somewhere he actually reported on the chandelier incident.
Yes, I do believe that was part of the chronology. And then people really like his stories, and they were serialized, as most things were at the time, for the general public. He also wrote some more historical fiction-y type things that weren't as successful, but the Phantom of the Opera was extremely successful for him. And so then he went on to write some plays and some more stories. Do you remember who has a similar background?
See, this is sounding extremely vaguely familiar.
Our
but we've
favorite,
talked about so many people who have, like,
yeah,
newspaper backgrounds.
But my favorite and yours, Mr. Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu, also started out life. He was supposed to be a lawyer, didn't like it, switched then to the paper and the publishing business, wrote a little bit of historical fiction, wasn't very successful, and then he starts writing sensationalist and gothic literature like Carmilla, and then he becomes successful at writing.
Wow.
So I thought that was...
This is a running trend.
Yes. Running trend among our gothic authors.
So, law to journalism to...
Gothic.
That's the formula. Neither of us went to law school.
No.
But we have worked in newspapers.
That's true. We did work in newspapers.
We've gotten one step. We gotta take the next one.
And I mean, part of working at newspapers, there are legal notices in newspapers. That's kind of adjacent.
Kind of. Now, here's the problem, because we weren't journalists. There's not any, like, connections to be made. There's no networking.
No.
From...
Well, that's the other problem. We're not men in the 1800s.
Yeah, that's also accurate.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Interesting little connection.
Were there any Shakespeare references in this book?
Yes. Multiple. There was near the beginning, I'm pretty sure, there's an opera based on Hamlet that they mention. And I don't know, that might have just been an explanation in the references of, oh, this reference is to an opera based on Hamlet. So that might not have overtly been it, but yes, Hamlet.
Okay, so we've got our obligatory Shakespeare reference.
Yep, we've got haunted location, mysterious location, supernatural element. It does get explained.
Some of it.
Some of it.
Some of it does not.
We've got the Shakespeare reference. We've got tragic characters. We've got the love story.
Yeah, lots of gothic pining.
Good gothic, good mystery. Highly enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not as intimidating. I was very intimidated to read it, but it's not very long. And the language, even the translation I had, like, it's accessible. I highly recommend it.
This is, and it's not really a later one, but this is a little later than some of the other stuff that we've read.
Oh, yeah.
Being from 1910 and not 1810.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But enjoyable in all iterations, I think.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Read the book, watch the silent movie, watch the Andrew Lloyd Webber movie, see the musical live if you can. Become a connoisseur.
Of the OG.
The OG, the P of the O. Alright, that's all from us, folks.
Yeah.
We will talk to you next time about another story.
That's right.
Okay, well, again, make sure to follow us on all of our social medias. They'll be linked down below. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a like or a favorite or whatever platform you're listening to this on. Leave us a comment. Let us know if you've read Phantom of the Opera before, if you've seen any iterations. And honestly, it made me kind of want to get into opera, so...
You know, I watched on YouTube, I watched Pagliacci.
Ooh. I mean, I really like Iron Mouse, who's a VTuber, who's also a classically trained opera singer, and she put out an opera song, and I really like that. So, anyways, let us know what you thought down below. Follow us everywhere. Leave comments. Tell us if there's anything you'd like us to cover, like us to read. Any suggestions. We're open. And yeah, we will talk to you next time.
That's right.
I forgot we still need to read the outro down.
The outro, well, we'll be back another time with something else.
Yep.
Meeting adjourned.
And scene. Goodbye.